Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this very special day in Wilmer's history. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here. I'm Peter McDonald, Wilmer's director, and we're excited to have the inaugural dedication of this Boone Pickens Professorship. I say this Boone Pickens Professorship because it's not the first Boone Pickens Professorship at Wilmer. The first was occupied by Walter Stark, and now Amer holds that one. But thanks to the generosity of Mr. Pickens and his family, we're able to do it again and celebrate with another one of our tremendous scientists who's going to make a big impact on the field of ophthalmology. I'd like to welcome our Dean, Dr. Ted DeWeese, Interim Dean of the Medical Faculty and CEO of Johns Hopkins Medicine, our trustee, Mr. Charles Sheeler, and our Wilmer Board of Governors who are present, Dr. Morton Goldberg, Alan and Claire Jensen, Liz Pickens-Cordia, who we'll hear from shortly, Dr. Jonathan Talamo, Dr. Neil Starkson, and trustee Mr. Howard Woolley. Also pleased to make sure that you get to know Sarah Shepard, who's here today from Maryland's Department of Commerce, and as I mentioned, Liz Cordia, our newest board member, and Boone Pickens' daughter. I'd like to offer also a warm welcome to Amer Riazuddin and his lovely family. Amer is our special awardee, honoree today, and we're delighted that his family could be here to celebrate with us. We're live streaming this event literally to the other side of the world. Amer has a lot of family in Pakistan, and they're watching us and sending their good wishes to Amer and his family and to Wilmer today. So it's now my pleasure to welcome to the podium Dean DeWeese.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with all of you today. It is a very special day to celebrate the Boone Pickens Professorship in Ophthalmology and to celebrate its most worthy inaugural recipient, Amer Riazuddin. Amer, congratulations to you. As noted by Peter, this is not the first Boone Pickens Professorship, and that's a great thing. But most importantly, it won't even be the last because of Mr. Pickens' clear vision about the value of the Wilmer in the world of ophthalmology, and that this is the premier place for ophthalmology, ophthalmologic research, and its translation to improve vision across the world. And so he knew that. He provided his guidance and his support for it, and we're really happy to know that this wouldn't be the last one. Mr. Pickens was obviously one of our nation's well-known entrepreneurs, and that's a good thing. And Amer, I think you fit right into that mold as well, but I think he would also be very happy to know that Maryland State came into part of this as an opportunity to support this particular professorship, and being able to leverage assets, I think, is what a good entrepreneur would do. So I think he'd be very happy with that. And so, of course, as Peter noted, I'm certainly very honored to have just met out in the lobby you, Elizabeth Cordia, Mr. Pickens' daughter. It was great to come to know you, learn about the little events coming into Baltimore some years ago with your father. That was, I won't share that particular story, but fascinating. But more than that, really thank you for your vision to be here with us today. Carrying on the legacy of your great father and what he has meant to both Wilmer and to this great institution, Hopkins. So thank you for that, for being here. Thank you. And it is rarely that I get to stand up in front of an audience and provide just my unequivocal thanks to the state of Maryland, but I get to do that today. And I do thank the state of Maryland and the Innovation Initiative Fund, because that is the partnership about which I was speaking, that they have the private funds matching with the Maryland state funds. And I think it's particularly fitting, as I noted, that it's the Boone Pickens Professorship in this. So thank you very much for being here and for the support of Maryland. Really very important to us. Amer, we're honoring you today. There'll be much more said about you than I can articulate, but I have known about you, I've read about you, and beyond the entrepreneurial spirit that I spoke about a moment ago, your work in cornea and some new ways to think about how do you improve visions for those patients who have corneal disease that can be done on a massive scale, but also at the fraction of the cost of corneal transplants. And that's not just important work for the Wilmer, that's Hopkins level kind of work to change the health of the world. So thank you for what you've done. As I think hopefully most of you know, endowed professorships are the highest honor that Johns Hopkins can bestow on one of its faculty members, and they are really that critical to be sure that we can retain and support our best faculty members in the pursuit of the things we do. We do discovery that translates into the best of patient care. And when we do those things very well, then we are training really the true future leaders of the world, and in this case, ophthalmology. And the men and women like Amer who will hold these are indeed our best and brightest, and they attract the best students to us, the best trainees to us, all of whom then reflect much light on the rest of us here at Hopkins. So congratulations, Amer, on this just fabulous accomplishment. So at this time, I'd like to invite my friend and trustee, Charlie Sheeler, to the podium with me, because as many of you know, endowments for professorships are held and administered by the university, so we have to formally present them to the university. So with this in mind, Mr. Sheeler, as trustee of the university, I formally present to you the Boone Pickens Professorship in Ophthalmology. So congratulations.
Thank you, Dean DeWeese. It is my distinct pleasure and it's my delight to accept the T. Boone Pickens Professorship in Ophthalmology on behalf of Johns Hopkins University. It's an honor to be here with you today, Amer, Riazuddin, and your family and friends, both here in Pakistan, where I just checked, it was about 8:20 in the evening for those of you watching there. This is a singular opportunity to celebrate T. Boone Pickens' generosity. We're so grateful to have you here, Liz, and the support of the Maryland Innovation Initiative Fund, which, as Ted said, is just incredibly forward-thinking policy that is driving not only innovation, but is driving a lot of creation of new jobs in Maryland's economy, tech jobs that are good, support families. So thank you so much. And that have supplied Dr. Riazuddin a unique platform to accelerate scientific breakthroughs in ocular genetics. All of us who wear glasses are grateful to you. The men and women who hold endowed scholarships at Johns Hopkins conduct some of the most significant research, not only here, but in the entire world. We attract the best students this way to work with people like Dr. Riazuddin and others who are acknowledged as leaders in their fields. These are the faculty members who bring prestige and honor to the Johns Hopkins name and make us who we are as an institution. Their work makes this a great university, and their ability to chart new courses of research and patient care comes in no small part from the reliable support of the endowed chair that we are celebrating today. Dr. Riazuddin, warmest congratulations from the university for this tremendous honor. And thank you again to the late T. Boone Pickens, his family, and the T. Boone Pickens Foundation for the generosity and contributions to Johns Hopkins medicine. This time I'll ask Dean DeWeese to return to the podium.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dean DeWeese, and it is a great pleasure and honor for Wilmer to have this professorship as part of what we're about and doing. When that professorship, when we built this building, we asked them to design an impressive place where we could honor our donors and recipients of professorships, and they designed that lovely structure. And when there were 2 spots left, I said, we're going to, I think, need another one. And so they designed this, and by the time it got completed about 2 weeks ago, the last 2 spots on that wall were filled, And there were, as you can see, 12 plaques on this wall. So certainly I dramatically underestimated the generosity of so many of our leading citizens and how much people valued Wilmer and how willing they are to support our work and the work of our brilliant young scientists. We're very thrilled that this is the fourth of these innovation professorships to come to Wilmer. Not that we're competitive, but no other department at Hopkins has this number of these. And Laura Ensign, who's now our vice chair for research, received one, Jeff Mumm, and Akrit Sodi, and they all started companies to try to commercialize their technologies. And I think it's Laura will tell me if I have the number wrong, something like 14 or 15 companies that Wilmer faculty have started over time. So it's exciting time to think that we at Wilmer can influence the world and touch the lives of many, many, many patients through the discoveries that happen in the laboratories in this building and other buildings as well. So I always tell my wife when it comes time, April 5th comes around, I say, let's pay our Maryland taxes early because Wilmer is going to get a whole bunch of that back. And that's been our track record, and I hope it will continue. We're very grateful to the state of Maryland. So it's my pleasure to ask Sarah Shepard to come up and speak to us. I have this long bio on Ms. Shepard that I have to share with you. She is joining us from the Office of Strategic Industries and Entrepreneurship of the Maryland Department of Commerce. The OSIE is responsible for attracting and expanding companies within Maryland's primary industries and those that are emerging. Ms. Shepard, the Director of Education and Workforce, is dedicated to enhancing entrepreneurship, education, and the workforce within the state through programs like the Maryland Innovation Initiative Fund and others. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Shepard to the podium.
Well, thank you. I thought that was going to be a lot longer. So, well, a lot of my talking points here have already been taken by the people who went before me. But just so you know, Sarah Shepard, Director of Education Workforce for the Maryland Department of Commerce. I also was hoping this would be not a clear podium so you get to see my fancy footwork today. But so if you don't know, the Maryland Innovation Initiative Program was put into law in 2014 by the General Assembly. From there, the purpose and intent of this program was to retain and recruit top university researchers and encourage collaboration among Maryland research universities, federal agencies, and the private sector with a keen focus on entrepreneurial activity. So the combination of this top talent and collaboration can enhance the economic competitiveness of the state as it builds on existing clusters or research and innovation. Thankfully, this program gives Maryland a tremendous advantage in intense global competition for the best minds in the world and will provide for opportunities, jobs, and industries created by their work. The program leverages the impact of state funds through matching programs from private donors, such as the Pickens family, and it also calls for an annual appropriation of $8.5 million. A couple years ago, this program was extended in perpetuity, so hopefully it is here to stay. So $8.5 million every year. And thankfully, Hopkins has been a great partner in that. So to date, we've leveraged over $75 million in state funds. It's a really unique program. Only a couple states do something similar to this, with 82 endowments. Hopkins has received over $16.5 million to date of that fund money and has 14 endowments. Now, Wilmer, as mentioned before, has 4 of those, which, is a huge credit to all of you here. So with that being said, and also it's over $4 million of that 16. So congratulations. But then thank you again for having me today. The Maryland Innovation Initiative Fund Authority and the Maryland Department of Commerce looks forward to continuing to support our institutions of higher education. The innovation and discovery happening at our colleges and universities not only strengthens these institutions and their students, but benefits our communities and lifts up our state as a whole. So thank you again for all your work in this.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. 4 is not enough, and so we're hoping that we'll continue this partnership here. Mr. Pickens was a larger-than-life person, and I imagine being his child is quite something. And my observation, I always enjoyed when he would come here because it was so interesting to see the reaction of staff, where a staff would run up to him and he would greet them by name because he would remember their first names from his last visit. And they would run up to him and he would greet them by name. He'd put out his hand, they'd shake hands, how are you? And he would tell them, thank you for whatever you're going to do for me today, take my pictures, whatever. When we had the Pickens Professorship dedication, the first one, he wrote handwritten notes to our development officers, some of whom were there. I'd see them taped up on the wall by their desk afterwards, and it was thanking them for things like arranging such a good meal, the caterer, and so on. Things that I think many of us would think, well, that's just people's job, and they're just doing their job. But he would go out of his way to remember people, remember their names, and thank them in person and in writing when he came here. And it made a big impression on people because they knew here's a guy who can hobnob with presidents and heads of state around the world, and yet he would take the time to write a handwritten note for them. And I'm guessing heavily that was a part of his formula for success and why so many people admired and respected him around the world. And if they didn't admire and respect him, they feared him because he was also a tough businessman who sort of started, I guess, the shareholder activist movement in many ways. And some people did not appreciate that. But I think overall, people would say it's part of what's made our economy so strong. So it's a treat to have, while Boone is up in heaven now and not with us physically here right now, it's a treat to have his daughter, Liz, with us today. Liz has agreed to join our board and represent Boone and his family and friends, and keep Wilmer on the right track. So please ask you to join me in welcoming Ms. Liz Pickens Cordia. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I've been bringing my dad to Wilmer for 25 years for his eye exams when he was first diagnosed with cataracts from Walter Stark. They met kind of just happenstance on a hunting trip in the early 70s. And I realized as I sat down to write this, we've had a relationship with Johns Hopkins for over 40 years. My dad is looking at me going, saying, please don't speak very long. But I have to tell a funny story about those that knew him and never heard him speak. He was kind of an incredible orator. He could speak on his feet about pretty much anything. A great storyteller. But he told me one time I had to give some remarks somewhere. I don't know what it was. And he said, Lizzie, I want to tell you about my first speech. He said, I got an award at the Amer Petroleum Club, and my granddad was there. That was the only one from the family that was there. And my dad said, I got nervous. I picked up my award, and I just said, thank you. And he got off the stage. And he went down to sit down, and my granddad had very dry sense of humor. He said, son, I believe that was the best speech I ever heard. And my dad said, seriously? he said, I froze. He said, I know it. Everybody loved it. We're going to eat lunch and go home. But anyway, I have lots and lots of thanks to give to this hospital because my dad made lots of friends here. Everybody was his friend. Most of you went to our ranch, and that was his most beloved place on this planet. But I want to say thank you to Walter Stark. He preserved my granddad's eyesight. I want to thank Walter and Neil Bressler for preserving my dad's, Peter Gelbach for literally saving my husband's eyesight. And now, since my dad left us, I have macular, so I hope you all will preserve mine. My dad had he probably said this to you all. He said the very most fun about making money was giving it away. And he really loved seeing his money go to work. He gave the vast majority of his wealth away while he was alive. And Amer, I look forward to knowing you and all the great things that you're doing. But I have kind of gotten to know Dr. Kashani. And I had the most incredible experience here the last time we were here. Dr. Kashani is young and has all these brilliant scientists around him. I hardly got out of biology, my Hockaday. Anyway, so it's very fun for me and inspiring for me. But I went up to their new construction site and how thoughtfully it was laid out. And he had this computer. These young minds were building this computer, and I got fascinated with it. They were looking behind the eye, and they were going to see, if somebody could potentially have Alzheimer's. And I was so intrigued. And then they told me that they had gotten it from parts on the Amazon, Amazon Prime, which I have to say, my dad would have loved that the ingenuity of these young minds, that they could just put that. How do they even know to connect this to that and get it from the Amazon? I was so overwhelmed. Anyway, I know he was saying, I hope they make a lot of money and give us a lot of money to Johns Hopkins Hospital. He was a great believer in capitalism. Anyway, the Boone Pickens Professorships, they're so perfectly suited to what he believed in. Young people, young minds, entrepreneurship, ingenuity, loved the science. So I want to conclude this, and I want to thank the Maryland Department of Commerce for your generosity, and for Peter McDonald, who quite literally kept his eyes on my dad for many, many years and navigated him through his, all of his problems with his eyes. So we're grateful to you all. We consider you all family after 40 years. And I'm excited about my journey to be a part of Johns Hopkins.
Thank you, Liz. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful occasion. I think it's very fitting. It's a very fitting day for you, Amer, to remember for the rest of your life. And in fact, just before the proceedings here, Amer and I and Dean Deweese were talking about memories from our own professorship dedication. So it's really great that things are coming together so nicely here today. As Dr. Riazuddin's division chief here at Wilmer, I'm very pleased to introduce him as the inaugural recipient of the Boone Pickens Professorship of Ophthalmology, or this Boone Pickens Professorship of Ophthalmology. Dr. Riazuddin was born in Pakistan, where he completed his early education, and subsequently he came to Johns Hopkins on a full scholarship for his Ph.D. studies. After receiving his doctorate, he completed 2 postdoctoral fellowships, the first at the National Eye Institute and the second at the Institute of Genetic Medicine here at Hopkins. During these years, he developed an interest in the anterior part of the eye that continues to this day. In 2012, a search committee consisting of esteemed Wilmer faculty members, including Don Zach and Jeremy Nathans, recruited Dr. Riazuddin to a tenure-track faculty position here at Hopkins, where over the past decade, he has developed multiple research programs funded by federal and state grants. He has authored more than 110 peer-reviewed scientific articles, and he has received prestigious awards, including the Alcon Research Institute Senior Investigator Award. Dr. Riazuddin's research mainly focuses on 2 areas: transparency of the lens and transparency of the cornea. Both of these structures at the front of the eye need to be clear in order to see well, and this clarity can be disrupted by a number of factors such as aging, injury, and disease. His most significant contribution to lens biology is deciphering the role of a cellular process called autophagy in the maintenance of lens transparency. His persistence over a decade in the face of adversity and some scientific controversy attests to his absolute commitment to asking important biological questions and his ability to overcome the challenges inherent to answering them. In recent years, Dr. Riazuddin expanded his research to develop a donor tissue independent solution for corneal transplantation using a patient's own cells. This research opens the possibility that someday corneal transplants can be performed using tissues developed from a patient's own body, thereby avoiding complications from using donor corneal transplant tissue from another person. On a personal note, I've closely observed Amer over the past 12 years. I've come to know him as an exceptionally creative and meticulous researcher. More importantly, he is a person of deep scientific conviction, the highest ethical standards, and great generosity and concern for others. Thus, I could not be happier for Amer and his family, for Wilmer and Johns Hopkins Medicine, for the Pickens Family and Foundation, and for the state of Maryland on this wonderful occasion. He's precisely the type of person and scientist who would make Mr. Pickens proud, and he perfectly embodies the intent of the Maryland Innovation Initiative Fund. I can think of no more worthy recipient or inaugural recipient of the Boone Pickens Professorship of Ophthalmology than Dr. Amer Riazuddin. Thank you very much for your attention and for joining us today.
Thank you, Bert. Amer, it's my pleasure to present you with this medallion commemorating your installation as Boone Pickens Professor of Ophthalmology at Wilmer. I promised Boone that 1 million people a year would see his name as part of the work that you're doing, and Amer Kashani and the other people that will have that title. So, and I believe that's a fair estimate. And I know that he'd be delighted to see that you're learning not only science, but translating your science into business, because he was educated as a scientist, as a geochemist, and obviously became a brilliant, successful businessman himself. So I think he would appreciate the journey that you're on with your career. So Amer, it's a treat to present you with this medallion and ask you to speak about your plans with this professorship. Congratulations.
A very good morning to all of you. Dr. McDonald, Dean DeVries, Mr. Sheeler, and Dr. Jun, thank you very much for the kind remarks. It's a great honor to be the inaugural recipient of Boone Pickens Professorship, and I am humbled to have my name among the giants. I would like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the Pickens family and foundation for endowing this professorship, and to the Maryland Innovation Initiation Fund for the matching endowment. When I began my independent research career a little over 11 years ago, I would have never imagined, not even in my wildest dreams, that within a decade, my laboratory would have a vibrant regenerative medicine research program. And we will be poised to contribute to efforts to preserve sight and prevent vision loss. This is only possible at a place like Wilmer Eye Institute, with its special emphasis on mentorship, support for research, and most importantly, encouragement to think high and think outside the box. This is a place where the so-called impossible research endeavors are very much possible. I have always been proud to be part of the Wilmer Institute, and more so today. To the Pickens family and foundation, I assure you that we will work tirelessly to ensure that the endowment has the highest impact possible on preventing vision loss. Although our work is considerable and the overall goal to preserve sight will not be achieved overnight, this endowment will undoubtedly be indispensable in reaching the finish line. Along the way, the commercialization of this technology will contribute to the socioeconomic growth of the state of Maryland. While our focus in the immediate future is to make this donor tissue independent treatment of corneal endothelial dysfunction more accessible, this endowment will have an impact beyond this one condition. The funds will be used to support research initiatives for developing minimally invasive treatment for cataract and glaucoma, the two leading causes of blindness worldwide. No one can do this alone, and neither did I. There are a lot of people, and many people that I must thank. I would not be here today if this was not for Roger McMacken, my Ph.D. thesis advisor and the former chair of the Department of Biochemistry here at Johns Hopkins. He was an exemplary scientist and a stellar human being who recruited me from Pakistan and mentored me to realize my potential as a scientist. Roger passed away in 2019, but his endless scientific curiosity left a lasting impression on so many, including me. I am thankful to my postdoctoral advisors, Fielding Kajmenchik and Nicholas Katsanis, for their mentorship that set the stage for my independent research career. During my second postdoctoral fellowship, Nicholas Katsanis accepted a job at Duke University, and I am and I will remain thankful to John Gotch, who convinced me not to move to Duke and make my career here at Johns Hopkins. His mentorship and guidance over the years has been indispensable for my professional development. Thank you. At Wilmer, I will forever be indebted to Dr. McDonald for his steadfast and unwavering support of my research interest. I'm thankful to Dr. Jun for his help earlier as a senior colleague and later as the chief of the cornea division. I'm also thankful to Dr. Sheila West and Laura Ensign for the former and the current vice chairs for research for their support and help with my career. To the members of my laboratory who worked tirelessly, who have sweated blood to make this day possible, thank you for your dedication and hard work. Most of all, I am deeply grateful for the unconditional love and support of my family, my parents, for teaching me that with persistence and hard work, nothing is impossible. My siblings for serving as an inspiration, and my beautiful and loving wife who has stood by me through thick and thin over the past 15 years. And most importantly, who has given me Bilal and Fatima, the sunshine of my life. In closing, I again assure the Pickens family and foundation and the MEIF program that we will leave no stone unturned to ensure that the endowment has the highest impact possible on preserving sight. Thank you very much for your time.
Amer, thank you and congratulations, and thank all of you for spending your morning with us. We're going to have Amer's brilliant young children help us out by unveiling his plaque that has their dad's name on it, and get some photos of that. And then we hope that you'll be able to stay and join us for a little reception after this exciting event. So go for it. A good photo of them. Perfect. Thanks very much.